afternoon. I'm Amy from the Beneficial Farms CSA blog, and welcome to my kitchen. Today my friend Paul is in town, and we had a lot of ripe brandywine tomatoes as well as some green ones, and we're talking about what we could make, and he has a great recipe that we're going to share with you today through this video presentation. And he is also Sicilian and lives in New Mexico. And so we kind of mixed the two, he's mixing the two types of Mediterranean as well as New Mexican ingredients. So we'll have green chili, habanero, and green olive salsa that we're going to make. And certainly my Sicilian grandfather always said that you should find the freshest ingredients and know where they came from. So certainly with a lot of the ingredients that you'll see today, they're either in your CSA share this week or were part of the brandywine tomatoes were grown, the starts by Mesa Top Farm, and so you may have these same ingredients available to you and you know where they all came from. So take those ingredients and then use them for your health and your life. So enjoy this presentation. What you'll need for this habanero green chili salsa is cloves of garlic as well as garlic powder, 2 limes, habanero peppers, plenty of green chili, we'll definitely use more than that in the recipe, the pimento stuffed green olives, a red onion as well as scallions, and lots of tomatoes. We're going to use some green brandywine tomatoes, some of the ripe brandywines, as well as Romas that we grew in the garden this year. We're also going to be using balsamic vinegar and then salt to taste. Well, we're going to first start by making sauce, and I know you're thinking sauce is a little bit strange to go with salsa, but this is going to help keep the heat of our habaneros down and as well as make a good base. So what I usually do for sauce is, like the Sicilian way, you're going to score the bottom of your tomatoes. These are going to be brandywines that we're using for sauce, and then you're going to put them in a pan. And the reason that we're scoring them is that's going to get the skins off much easier. So now that we've scored the tomatoes, what we're doing is bringing them to a boil just for about 60 seconds, and then we're going to take them out, let them cool, and then you'll be able to take where the X's are, you'll be able to take the skins off easier. And we're going to take the scraps and put them in my composter so I can feed my pets the compost worms. So for the tomatoes in the salsa, we're going to use the Romas, and you can really use any size. This is about the size that we're going to use in our salsa today, but it's up to your preference how big the tomatoes are. Okay, so now we're going to use a green tomato, and many of you probably have green tomatoes because the weather all of a sudden has turned cold, and so I pulled all of my green brandywines, and I'm just going to chop a couple of these into the salsa as well. It's just going to add a little bit of flavor. So now that we have all of the tomatoes cut, we'll just add them to our other tomatoes. And you can see we have some green ones as well as the red ones, just really to your taste. And this is about the quantity that you'll need. So I'm chopping up a head of garlic. And this is the purple garlic that we got in the CSA braids earlier in May, and so if you still have it hanging in your kitchen, this would be a great use for it. So I just usually cut off the end and smash it to peel it, and then we're going to chop it all up together so that we can mix it in our tomato mixture. And then we'll take the whole group of garlic, and I keep my fingers out of the way and just make sure that we can chop it up. And you want it to be fairly fine, but it definitely doesn't have to be into a paste because we're going to put it into the tomato mixture and then let it sit for a little while. And if your garlic is not very strong, you are also using garlic powder in this to make sure that you have the correct flavors that you like. So now we have the garlic chopped, and we're just going to put that into our tomato mixture. So now that the tomatoes have cooled, and I had pulled them out of the boiling water with tongs so that they can cool in a place that is not full of water. And then it's very easy to pull the skins off at this point. They just come right off, so that extra step and probably about 20 minutes that we took to boil the water is definitely worth it. And then you can actually just break the tomatoes right into the pan, and then you can pull out the stem. We also want to add all of the tomato juice in there. We're just going to add a little bit of salt and then a little bit of brown sugar to temper the acid taste. And then we'll get this stirred in and just bring it to a simmer so that it can reduce a little bit. So we used about half of a jar of olives, or about a cup. Green olives actually add a really nice flavor to the salsa, so definitely you want to make sure that you add them. And then we're just going to chop them up a little bit so that they're about the same size as your tomatoes. So just a very rough chop. So we just want to chop these olives up so that you can have the pimentos and some olive chunks, and it's going to add some nice, actually some salty brine to the salsa as well. So now we're going to go ahead and add our olives to the tomato and garlic mixture. And then for a little bit of extra brine, we're going to go ahead and add just a little bit of the juice in. There we go. And we're going to use the green parts of some scallions, and we actually are getting scallions in this week's CSA share, so we'll be able to use those fresh ones. And we're just going to chop these about the same size as we have the olives. Okay, now we're going to add the green onions to our mixture. This is the scallions, also known as green onions. Now we're going to put the red onion in, and remember that we also have the scallions, so we're not going to use all of this giant red onion. And then we're going to have a smaller dice on this onion as well. Woo-wee! We got a really strong one. And that was probably about 3/4 of a cup of onions, or maybe even a little bit less. You can certainly do everything to taste in this recipe. So these are habanero peppers, and certainly very, very hot. So I'm actually going to use a fork while I'm cutting these so that I don't touch these. And then you want it to be very small, so a lot smaller than you've cut the other vegetables that have gone into the salsa. We're going to go ahead and put them into the mixture. And remember, we're also adding green chilies, so certainly we'll have both the flavors in the salsa. So now we're going to add the green chili, and what we have is about 60 ounces of roasted, chopped, and frozen chilies. Certainly if you grew them this year or you bought them fresh at the farmer's market, you just want to have probably about 3 to 4 cups of them to your taste. We're just going to add this on into the mixture. So we transferred this to a larger bowl so that we can stir it, and then we're going to add the tomato sauce at this point. And we've left the tomato sauce slightly warm because that's going to really meld all the flavors and really bring out a lot of the scents in all of these wonderful vegetables. Okay, now we have our warm tomato sauce, which we're going to add in, and this is going to be a great thickener as well. And then we just need to stir this in. So we cut our 2 limes in half, and we're just going to juice them straight into the mixture. Okay, so now we're ready to add garlic powder. We're probably going to add about 2 tablespoons of this, and then certainly you can add it to taste. And then salt, about the same amount, and then more to taste. And then we just want a splash of balsamic vinegar. You can go ahead and stir everything in. Now it's time for the important part, the tasting. Very good consistency. So now we have canned some of the salsa, and we're going to keep the rest in the fridge. Now you could either put it in jars or containers in your refrigerator. It should keep for about 5 days fresh, or you could can it and make sure that you follow proper canning procedures because there are tomatoes in this. And enjoy!